The wind cut through the narrow streets. Like broken glass, Owen pulled his coat tighter as he locked the front door of his small shop, fingers numb despite his gloves. This colony world had seemed promising in the brochures, but nobody mentioned how the cold could make your bones ache even indoors. He turned to head home when he heard it, a sound so soft he almost missed it beneath the howling wind, crying, no, not crying. Exactly, whimpering. Owen froze. His hand went to the stunner on his belt, a habit from 5 years living on the frontier. Wild animals sometimes wandered into town when food grew scarce, but this sound was different. It carried something he recognized despite never hearing it before. Pain mixed with fear, mixed with a kind of exhaustion that came from fighting too long against something impossible to beat. He found her pressed against the wall beside his door. At first his mind refused to process what he saw. Scales, wings, a long neck curled in on itself, a dragon. But small, so impossibly small, no bigger than the herding dogs some farmers kept. Her scales were gray and dull, nothing like the shimmering colors he had seen in educational videos. Frost clung to the membranes of her wings. Her eyes were closed. Owen stood there like an idiot. Every survival instinct screamed at him to walk away. Dragons were predators, apex predators. Their adults could tear through whole plating. Even their children could breathe fire hot enough to melt steel. The colony had 3 different emergency procedures just for dragon sightings. She whimpered again. Her whole body shook. Owen knelt down slowly. Her eyes snapped open, yellow and bright and absolutely terrified. She tried to stand, to run, but her legs wouldn't hold her. She collapsed back against the wall, tiny claws scraping uselessly against the frozen ground. Hey, Owen said softly. Hey, it's okay. It wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay, but the words came out anyway. She stared at him. He could see her thinking, weighing her options, fight or flight, except she couldn't do either. Her jaw opened slightly and a weak puff of smoke emerged, not even enough heat to warm his face, a warning that held no threat. Owen made a decision that would probably get him killed. He unlocked his shop door and pushed it open. Warmth spilled out from inside. He had left the heating unit running, something he normally never did because of the cost. The dragon child's eyes fixed on that open doorway like it was paradise itself. Come on, Owen said, stepping back to give her space. You'll freeze out here. She didn't move, just stared at him with those huge yellow eyes. I'm not going to hurt you, he continued, knowing she probably couldn't understand him. I make toys, see. He pulled a small wooden horse from his pocket, something he had been carving during slow business hours. He set it on the ground between them. The dragon child looked at the toy, then back at him. Her body shook harder. Owen realized she was running out of time. Hypothermia. Didn't care what species you were. He did something incredibly stupid. He scooped her up in his arms. She was heavier than she looked, but not by much. Solid muscle and bone despite her size. She went rigid, every muscle locked. Her mouth opened wide, and Owen braced himself for fire that would cook him from the inside out. Nothing came, just that same weak smoke. She was too cold even for that. Owen carried her inside and kicked the door shut behind him. His workshop was cluttered with half-finished toys, tools, scraps of wood and fabric. He cleared a space near the heating unit and set her Down gently, she immediately curled into the tightest ball possible, wings wrapped around herself. Right, Owen muttered, moving quickly now. He grabbed the emergency blanket from his first aid kit and draped it over her. She flinched but didn't fight. He turned the heating unit up as high as it would go, then he filled a pot with water and set it to boil on his small electric burner. While the water heated, he pulled up his communication console and searched for Dragon emergency contacts. There had to be someone, some organization, some authority that handled lost Dragon children. His fingers flew across the keys, pulling up result after result. What he found made his stomach turn. Dragons migrated in the winter, large groups moving to warmer regions. Weak ones, the sick ones, the ones who couldn't keep up, they got left behind. Natural selection, one article called it. Survival of the fittest. No one would come for her because no one cared. She was supposed to die. That was how her species did things. That's insane, Owen said out loud. Dragon Child's eyes opened. She had been watching him. The blanket and the heat were working. Her scales had gone from gray to dark blue, though still not bright. She tilted her head slightly. Owen poured the hot water into a bowl and added some dried meat and vegetables. It wasn't much, but it was what he had. He let it cool slightly, then brought it over to her. She stared at the bowl like it might explode. Food, Owen said, pointing. Eat. She looked at him for a long moment, then, moving carefully, she unwrapped one wing from her body. A small clawed hand reached out and dipped into the broth. She brought it to her mouth and licked her palm clean. Her eyes went wide. She ate faster, using both hands now, making soft sounds that might have been relief or joy or both. Owen sat back and watched her eat. Tomorrow he would figure out what to do. Tomorrow he would deal with the laws and the neighbors and the 1,000 problems this created. Tonight a child was warm and fed. Nothing else mattered. She finished the bowl and looked up at him. For the first time her tail uncurled slightly. Lyra, she said. Her voice was rough and unused, but the word was clear. Name Lyra. Owen smiled. I'm Owen. She repeated it, mangling the pronunciation, but she tried. She curled up near the heating unit, the blanket still around her, and closed her eyes. Within minutes she was asleep. Owen stayed awake, keeping watch, feeding the heating unit and wondering what he had gotten himself into. Light broke through the workshop windows in thin gray lines. Owen's back hurt from sleeping in his chair. He had meant to just rest his eyes for a moment, but exhaustion had taken him under completely. The heating unit still hummed. The blanket lay empty on the floor. His heart jumped. He shot to his feet, scanning the room. Lyra, small blue head poked out from behind his workbench. Her scales had transformed overnight, now carrying hints of sapphire and silver that caught the morning light. She looked almost healthy, almost. Her wings still hung slightly wrong, and her movements were careful, like everything still hurt. Here, she said quietly. She was holding one of his carving tools, examining it with intense focus. Owen let out a breath he didn't know he had been holding. You scared me. She tilted her head, processing the words. Her grasp of the common language was rough, but she was trying. Scared, fear. You fear Lyra? No, Owen said quickly. I was worried about you, thought maybe you left. She looked at the door, then back at him. Cold outside? Yeah, Owen agreed. Very cold. His Communication console chirped. Owen moved to check it while Lyra went back to examining his tools. The message was from his neighbor, a growl merchant named Tabas. It was short and not particularly friendly. Saw lights in your shop all night. Everything okay? Owen stared at the screen. Thomas lived 3 buildings down, but his second-floor apartment had a clear view of the street. If he had seen the lights, he might have seen other things too. Owen typed back a simple response. Working late, big order. The reply came within seconds. Need to talk. Coming by in 10 minutes. Owen swore under his breath. He looked at Lyra, who had discovered his box of paint and was sniffing it cautiously. Lyra, I need you to stay quiet for a bit, okay? Someone is coming. She looked up at him, reading the tension in his voice, if not all his words. Danger. Maybe, I don't know yet. She set down the paint and moved behind the workbench, again making herself small. Owen felt something twist in his chest at how naturally she hid. How many times had she needed to make herself invisible to survive? Tabas arrived exactly 10 minutes later. The growl were punctual to a fault. He knocked twice, and Owen opened the door just wide enough to step outside, closing it quickly behind him. Morning, Owen said, keeping his voice level. Thomas was tall and thin with gray skin that looked like stone and eyes that were too sharp. He crossed his forearms and got straight to the point. You have a dragon in there. Owen's mouth went dry. I don't know what you mean. Don't lie to me, Owen. I saw you carry something inside last night. Something with wings. And this morning I saw smoke from your heating vent. Not normal smoke. Dragon smoke has sulfur in it. I can smell it from here. Owen met his eyes. She's a child. She was freezing too. Death, it. Tabas corrected, not she it. Dragons don't think like we do. They're predators. You know what adult dragons did to the mining colony on Pharaoh's 43 people dead in one night. She's not an adult, Owen said firmly. She's a kid who got left behind by her own people. What was I supposed to do? Let her die? Yes, Toba said simply. That's exactly what you were supposed to do. That's what dragon culture demands. The weak die so the strong survive. You think you're being kind, but you're interfering with their way of life. Their way of life is cruel. It's not our place to judge. Tabas leaned closer. Oh, and I like you. You're a decent craftsman and you keep to yourself. But if the colony council finds out about this, they'll force you to remove it, or they'll do it themselves. Dragons aren't protected here. They're classified as dangerous fauna. She has a name, Owen said quietly. Lyra. Tabas closed his eyes and made a sound somewhere between a sigh and a growl. You named it. Of course you did. Humans and your ridiculous empathy. Listen to me carefully. The council meets in 3 days. As if anyone else sees what you're hiding, they'll bring it up in session. And then you'll have no choice. What are you saying? I'm saying I didn't see anything yet, but you need to think very hard about what you're doing. That thing in your shop isn't a pet. It's going to grow. In 6 months it will be bigger than you. In a year it could burn down this entire block if it wanted to. She won't, Owen said, not sure why he was so certain. She's not like that. You don't know what it's like, Tabas countered. He turned to leave, then paused. 3 days. Owen figured this out before then. Owen watched him walk away, then slipped back inside his shop. Lyra was exactly where he had left her, still hiding, but her Eyes were huge and her wings were pulled so tight to her body they had to hurt. He once hurt Lyra, she asked. No, Owen said, though he wasn't entirely sure that was true. He's just worried. Lyra, go, she said suddenly. Lyra, leave. Owen, safe then? No, the word came out harder than Owen intended. He knelt down to her level. You're not going anywhere. Not in this cold, not when you're still recovering. Owen, in trouble because Lyra, I'm in trouble because people are afraid. Owen corrected gently, that's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. She looked at him for a long moment, those yellow eyes searching his face. Then she did something unexpected. She moved forward and pressed her head against his chest. Just for a second, her scales were warm. Now properly warm, heated from within by whatever fire burned in her core. Thank you, she whispered, for warm. Owen rested his hand on her head, feeling the hard plates beneath the surprisingly soft outer layer. You're welcome. He spent the rest of the day teaching her simple words and phrases. She learned fast, frighteningly fast. By afternoon, she could string together basic sentences. By evening, she was asking questions. Why Owen helped Lyra. Owen looked up from the wooden puzzle box he was assembling. Because you needed help. But why? She pressed. Lyra. Not Owen kind. No, Owen agreed. Not, but that doesn't matter. You were cold and scared and alone. What kind of person would I be if I just walked past that? Lyra thought about this for a long time. Finally, she said, good person. Owen, good person. Owen smiled. I'm just a person, Lyra, trying to do the right thing. Outside, the wind picked up again, rattling the windows. Lyra moved closer to the heating unit. She was safe for now. That would have to be enough. 5 days passed. Lyra grew stronger with each one. Her scales brightened from dark blue to brilliant sapphire with streaks of silver that shimmered when she moved. Her wings no longer dragged. She held them properly now, folded against her back in neat triangles. But the biggest change was in her eyes. The fear had faded, replaced by something Owen could only describe as curiosity. She was fascinated by everything in his workshop, the way wood grain ran in different directions, how paint mixed to create new colors, the smell of fresh varnish. She asked endless questions in her improving but still broken speech, and Owen answered every single one. On the 6th morning, Owen opened his shop for business. Lyra had been watching him prepare for this all week. She understood he needed to work, needed to earn money to buy food and fuel. She had promised to stay hidden in the back room when customers came. But when Owen pulled out the commission he had been avoiding, a complex music box for a wealthy collector named Mrs. Chen, Lyra crept closer to watch. Problem? She asked. Owen rubbed his face. This needs to be done in 3 days. It's too much work for one person. Gears alone will take me 20 hours. Lyra looked at the plans spread across his workbench. Her clawed finger traced the design. Lyra, help. You don't know how to do this kind of work. Teach. Lyra, she said simply. Lyra, have good hands. See, she held up her claws. They were sharp and dangerous looking, but Owen had watched her handle his delicate carving tools without breaking a single one. Her control was remarkable. Owen hesitated. Then he pulled out a piece of scrap wood and a simple cutting tool. Okay, let's see what you can do. He showed her how to hold the blade, how to cut with the grain instead of against it, how to apply pressure gradually rather than Forcing it, Lyra watched with intense focus, her head tilted at an angle that would have looked ridiculous on anyone else. Then she tried it herself. First cut was clumsy, the second was better. By the 10th, her movements were smooth and controlled. Owen felt his jaw drop. How are you doing that? Lyra looked up at him. Doing what? Learning. That fast? She thought about it. Lyra. Watch Lyra remember, then hands do. She made it sound so simple. Maybe for her it was. By the end of the day, Lyra had cut out all the wooden panels Owen needed for the music box exterior. They were nearly perfect, better than some work Owen had done himself. He stared at the pieces laid out on his workbench, not quite believing what he was seeing. Good? Lyra asked nervously. Good, Owen laughed. Lyra, this is amazing. You're amazing. Her scales flushed slightly darker. A blush, she realized. She ducked her head. Pleased. Help Owen. Owen helped Lyra. Fair. Over the next 2 days they worked together. Owen handled the complex mechanical parts while Lyra did the detail work. She painted tiny flowers on the box panels with brushes that looked absurdly small in her claws. She carved decorative patterns with a steadiness that Owen envied. She even helped assemble the internal mechanisms, her small size allowing her to reach places Owen's larger hands couldn't. They finished a full day early. When Mrs. Chen arrived to collect her commission, Owen had Lyra hide as promised. The wealthy collector examined the music box from every angle. She opened it, closed it, wounded the key, and listened to the delicate melody that played. Her expression gave nothing away. This is acceptable, she finally said, which coming from Mrs. Chen was high praise. She paid Owen double his usual rate without being asked. I'm have more work for you in the future. Your quality has improved significantly. After she left, Lyra emerged from the back room. She loved it, Owen said, splitting the payment and tucking half into a jar. This is yours. Lyra stared at the money. Mine. You earned it. We're partners now. Something shifted in Lyra's expression. Her tail, which had been cautiously tucked close to her body, relaxed and swayed slightly. Partners, she repeated, testing the word, then softer. Family? Owen felt his throat tighten. Yeah, family. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. A child pressed her face against the shop window. A human girl, maybe 7 years old, with dark hair and wide eyes. She was staring directly at Lyra, who had been sorting wooden blocks by color at the workbench. Lyra froze. Owen moved to close the curtains, but the girl knocked on the glass. Is that a dragon? She called out, voice muffled but excited. Owen looked at Lyra. Lyra looked back at him. They had a silent conversation in that glance. Hide or be seen, fear or hope. Lyra made the decision. She walked to the window and waved. The girl's face lit up like a solar flare. She waved back frantically. Within seconds, 2 more children appeared. Then 3 more. Soon there was a whole cluster of kids pressed against the glass, pointing and chattering. They scared? Lyra asked Owen. Look at their faces, Owen said. Do they look scared? Lyra studied the children carefully. They were smiling, laughing. One boy was jumping up and down with excitement. No, not scared, happy, Owen confirmed. One brave child opened the door. Can we come in? Owen should have said no, should have protected Lyra from exposure, but when he looked at her face, he saw something he hadn't seen before. Hope. The Desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, the world wasn't going to reject her. "Come in," Owen said, "but be respectful. No sudden moves, no loud noises." The children filed in like they were entering a temple. They formed a semicircle around Lyra, maintaining a careful distance. The first girl spoke. "Up, what's your name?" "Lyra, I'm Amy. Are you really a dragon?" "Yes." "Can you breathe fire?" Lyra glanced at Owen. He nodded. She took a careful breath and exhaled a small stream of flame, directing it safely upward. Children gasped in wonder, not fear. "Wonder, that's so cool," a boy breathed. "What are you making?" Lyra held up the wooden toy she had been painting. "Small bird, wings spread in flight." "Bird for shop, it's beautiful," Amy said. "Did you paint that yourself?" "Yes." Owen teach Lyra. The questions came faster then. What did dragons eat? Where did she sleep? Did she have dragon friends? Could she fly? Lyra answered, each one patiently, her language improving with every sentence as she relaxed. Owen watched from behind his counter, ready to intervene if needed, but the children were gentle, curious, but kind. When their parents eventually came, looking for them, panic on their adult faces, they found their kids sitting on the floor around a dragon child, listening to her explain the difference between water-based and oil-based paint. The parents reacted exactly as Owen expected. Shock, fear demands that their children get away from the dangerous creature immediately, but the children protested. "She's nice, Mom. She was just teaching us about art, Dad. She's not dangerous. She's our friend." Eventually, after much reassurance and careful diplomacy from Owen, the families left. But something had changed. Word would spread now. There was no hiding anymore. Trouble coming. Lyra asked after the last family departed. "Maybe," Owen admitted, "but you know what? I think it might be okay." Lyra looked at the door where the children had been. "They not scared of Lyra?" "No," Owen agreed. "They weren't scared at all." That night Lyra hummed while she worked on a new toy. It was the first time Owen had ever heard her make a sound like that, content, almost happy. He smiled and returned to his own project. Tomorrow would bring whatever it brought. Tonight they had this moment. It was enough. The storm came 3 weeks later, not the kind you could see in weather reports or prepare for with shutters and supplies. The kind that built slowly in whispers and sideways glances until it finally broke. Owen heard it start in the market. He had taken Lyra with him, something they had been doing more often since the children had spread word about the friendly dragon who made toys. Most people still gave them a wide berth, but at least they weren't calling security anymore. 2 men blocked their path between the vegetable stalls. Owen recognized them as workers from the mining operation on the colony's edge, hard men with harder lives. The taller one, a human named Raymond, crossed his arms. "Heard you're keeping a dragon," Raymond said. "I'm caring for a child," Owen corrected, keeping his voice level. Lyra pressed closer to his side. "That thing eats, doesn't it? Takes resources. Food that could go to actual colonists. She eats less than most people assume," Owen replied. "Dragons are efficient. She needs maybe a third of what I do." The second man, a growl named Kenton, spat on the ground. "Doesn't matter. Winter stores are running low. The next supply ship isn't due for 2 months. We shouldn't be wasting anything on predators." "She's not a predator. She's a kid." Today, Raymond said. "What about in 6 Months a year, dragons grow fast, you. Planning to keep it fed when it's the size of a transport vehicle, a crowd had gathered. Owen felt their eyes. Measuring, judging. He also saw Tabas on the edge of the group face carefully. Neutral watching, we'll figure it out, Owen said. No, Kenton stepped forward, we'll figure it out. Colony Council meets tonight. Emergency session, your pet dragon is on the agenda. They walked away, but the damage was done. The crowd's mood had shifted. Owen heard the muttering, saw the concerned faces. He gathered his supplies quickly and headed back to the shop, Lyra silent beside him. Once inside with the door locked, Lyra finally spoke. Lyra should go. No, Owen. Lose everything. Lyra not worth it. Owen knelt down so they were eye level. You are worth it. Don't let anyone tell you different. Why? Lyra's voice cracked. Lyra just dragon. Lyra kind leave Lyra to die. Why? Owen kind not same. Because leaving someone to die when you can help them is wrong. Owen said firmly. I don't care if it's tradition or culture or survival instinct. It's wrong and I won't do it. That evening Owen prepared for the council meeting. He pulled together documentation showing Lyra's food consumption, her contribution to his business, testimonials from the children's parents who had grudgingly admitted their kids were unharmed. It wasn't much, but it was something. Lyra helped him organize the papers. She had learned to read faster than Owen thought possible. Owen, she said quietly, if council say Lyra go, Lyra will go. No fight, promise. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. The meeting hall was packed. The colony council sat at a long table at the front, 5 members representing different species and interests. Owen recognized the chairwoman, a stern human named Patricia, who ran things with an iron will and a surprising amount of fairness. Raymond and Kenton presented their case. First, resources were tight. Winter had been harder than expected. The colony couldn't afford to support non-contributing members, especially dangerous ones. They showed images of dragon attacks from other worlds, statistics about dragon growth rates and appetite, fear wrapped in reasonable concerns. Then it was Owen's turn. He presented his documentation, explained Lyra's minimal needs, showed the quality of work she produced. He talked about the children who visited the shop, how they were learning that different didn't mean dangerous, how prejudice died when people actually met each other instead of just being afraid. Patricia listened to everything. Then she asked the question Owen had been dreading. Mr. Owen, what happens when she gets bigger, when her needs increase, when her fire gets hot enough to be truly dangerous? We'll adapt, Owen said, same as everyone adapts when children grow up. She's not your child. Yes, she is. That caused a stir in the crowd. Patricia held up a hand for silence. Dragon culture doesn't recognize adoption across species. Then dragon culture is wrong, Owen said. The room erupted. Patricia banged her gavel until order returned. Before she could speak, the power died. Every light in the building went dark. The heating system's hum cut off mid-note. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in weak red. People started shouting. Someone screamed. Owen ran outside. Half the colony was dark. The main generator had failed. In this cold, that was a death sentence for anyone in poorly insulated buildings. The hospital, the nursery, the elder care facility, all running on backup. Power that would last maybe 6 hours. How long to fix it? Someone yelled at the engineer emerging from the power station. 8 hours minimum, she called back. Maybe more. The main conductor froze and cracked. 8 hours, Owen did the math. The temperature would drop below survival levels in 4. Children and elderly would die in their sleep. He ran back to find Lyra. She was standing in the doorway of the meeting hall watching everything. People die? She asked. Not if we can help it, Owen said. Can you control your fire, keep it burning without letting it explode? Yes. Why? I need you to do something very difficult and very scary. 20 minutes later, Lyra stood in the center of the community shelter. Every young child and elderly person in the colony had been moved here. It was the most insulated building they had, but it was still too cold. Already people were shivering despite blankets and body heat. Lyra took a deep breath, then she exhaled, not an explosion of fire, but a steady, controlled stream that she directed at the ceiling. The heat dispersed through the room, warming the air. She held it for 30 seconds, then stopped to breathe, then did it again. I can do shifts, Owen said to Patricia, who had followed them. 10 minutes on, 5 minutes rest. She can keep the room warm enough until the generator is fixed. Patricia stared at the dragon child who was saving their colony. Will she have enough energy? She'll try, Owen said. That's all any of us can do. For 8 hours, Lyra breathed fire. Owen timed her breaks, brought her water, encouraged her when she started to shake from exhaustion. Other adults helped, organizing the children, keeping them calm, managing the shelter, but it was Lyra who kept them alive. When the power finally came back on, Lyra collapsed. Owen caught her before she hit the ground. Her scales were dull again, all her energy spent, but she was smiling. People okay? She whispered. Everyone's okay, Owen assured her. You saved them. The room was silent. Then one of the children started clapping, then another, then everyone. The sound was deafening. Patricia approached. She looked at Lyra, then at Owen. The council will vote tomorrow, but I think the outcome is already decided. The next day, the vote was unanimous. Lyra could stay. More than that, she was granted full colony citizenship, the first dragon in history to receive such status. Raymond found Owen in the street. Afterward, he looked uncomfortable. I was wrong, he said simply, about her. About dragons, I'm sorry. Tell her not me. Raymond looked at Lyra, who was watching wearily. I'm sorry, he said. Thank you for what you did. Lyra nodded slowly. People need help, Lyra. Help? Simple. Yeah, Raymond said. Simple. He walked away, shoulders bent. That night, Lyra fell asleep in her usual spot near the heating unit. Owen covered her with a blanket and sat in his chair, too tired to move. Tomorrow, there would be more challenges. But tonight they had won something important, not just acceptance. Understanding. Lyra had shown them what Owen already knew. That strength wasn't about size or fire or claws. It was about showing up when people needed you most, even when you were scared and exhausted and had every reason to save yourself instead. That was the real lesson, and maybe, just maybe, the colony had finally learned it. Spring arrived slowly, fighting winter for every degree of warmth. The snow turned to slush, then to mud, then finally to bare ground. Green things pushed up through the soil. The colony came back to life. So did Lyra. She had grown, not the explosive Growth everyone had feared, but steady and healthy. She was now the size of a large human, her wingspan impressive. When fully extended, her scales had deepened to a rich sapphire blue with silver patterns that traced across her back like constellations. She moved with more confidence, her tail no longer tucked close but swaying naturally as she walked. Owen noticed the change in how people treated her. Where once they had crossed the street to avoid her, now they nodded in greeting. Children still flocked to the shop, but now their parents came too, commissioning toys and asking about custom work. Lyra had become part of the community, not a curiosity, not a threat, just another person trying to make her way, which made what happened on the first warm day of spring so much harder. Owen heard them before he saw them, the distinctive sound of dragon wings, powerful and rhythmic. He stepped outside his shop and looked up. 5 dragons circled overhead, much larger than Lyra, their scales catching the sunlight in shades of red and gold and green. They spiraled down in a coordinated pattern, landing in the town square with enough force to crack the stone. The colony went quiet. People stopped mid-con conversation. Children pressed against their parents. Everyone stared. The largest dragon, scales like burnished copper, stepped forward, her voice carried across the square, speaking in the common tongue. "We seek the lost one, the child left behind during the winter migration." Owen felt his stomach drop. Lyra stood in the shop doorway, frozen. "My kind," she whispered. The copper dragon's eyes scanned the crowd until they found Lyra. "There, come forward, young one." Lyra looked at Owen. He couldn't read her expression, fear, hope, confusion, all of it at once. She walked forward slowly and Owen followed, unwilling to let her face this alone. "You survived," the copper dragon said, studying Lyra with an intensity that made Owen uncomfortable. "That should not have been possible. You were too weak. The cold should have taken you." "I found shelter," Lyra said quietly. Her common tongue was flawless now. "Better than most colonists. I found help from him." The copper dragon looked at Owen like he was something stuck to her claw. "A human. His name is Owen." Lyra said, "He saved my life." Another dragon, smaller with green scales, stepped forward. "I am your mother. I thought you dead. I mourned you." Lyra's whole body went rigid. "You left me. I followed tradition. The migration cannot wait for the weak. That is our way, but finding you alive, this changes everything. You have proven your strength. You can return to us now." "Return," Lyra repeated. "Yes, come home. Learn the ways of our people properly. Fly with your kind. You have outgrown your need for." She glanced at Owen with barely concealed disdain. "Lesser species." Owen felt the words like a physical blow, but this wasn't about him. He stayed silent, letting Lyra make her own choice. "She deserved that much. I have learned the ways of people," Lyra said carefully. "Owen taught me to read, to craft, to trade fairly. He taught me that strength is not about surviving alone. It is about helping others survive too." The copper dragon made a dismissive sound. "Human philosophy. Weakness disguised as virtue. True strength requires no one else." "Then why are you here?" Lyra asked. 5 dragons, flying together, hunting together, migrating together. If you need no one else, why not fly alone?" The dragons shifted uncomfortably. Score 1 for Lyra, Owen thought. The copper dragon's eyes narrowed. "We are kin. That is different." How we're the same species. So only same species can be kin, can be. Family, Lyra's voice grew stronger. I lived with dragons my whole life before. Winter they fed me, yes, sheltered me. Yes, but they never taught me, never. Asked my name, never cared if I was happy or sad or scared, to them I was just another mouth to feed, one they were relieved to lose, her mother. Flinched, that is not fair, it is truth. Lyra shot back, Owen found me dying, he could have walked away. Your kind would have, but he brought me inside, fed me, kept me warm all night, taught me his language, his trade, he made me his partner, his family, not because I was strong, because I needed help, that is real strength. You have been corrupted by human sentimentality, the copper dragon said. You will understand in time, come with us, you belong with your own kind. Lyra spread her wings. She was smaller than the adults, but her stance was firm. I am with my own kind. People who care about more than just surviving, people who build things together, create beauty, help each other. That is who I am now. You are a dragon, her mother said desperately. That cannot change. No, Lyra agreed. I am a dragon, but I am also Owen's daughter, his partner, a citizen of this colony, a toy maker, friend to children who visit the shop. I am all these things, and I will not give them up to return to a culture that valued me only after I proved I could survive what they left me to die from. The 5 dragons looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally, the copper dragon spoke. This is unprecedented. Dragons do not bond with other species, not like this. Then maybe that is wrong, Lyra said. Simply, maybe we have been doing it wrong for a long time. Her mother stepped closer. If you stay, you will be different, neither fully dragon nor fully anything else. You will not fit anywhere. I fit here, Lyra said. She reached out and took Owen's hand in her claw. The gesture was careful, gentle, practiced from months of working together with him, with the people here. That is enough. Her mother's eyes reflected something Owen couldn't quite name: sadness, regret, understanding. Then I have truly lost you. No, Lyra said softly. You can visit, learn what we have learned, see how we live. Door is open, but I will not abandon my family to rejoin people who abandoned me. The dragon stood in silence for a long moment, then the copper dragon dipped her head, a gesture of acknowledgement. If not agreement, you have chosen your path. We will respect it, but know this, young one, the offer remains. If you ever wish to return to your own kind, we will welcome you. Thank you, Lyra said. But Owen is my own kind. These people are my own kind. Kindness is my own kind. The dragons took flight, powerful wings carrying them up and away. The colony watched until they were specks against the clouds. Then everyone turned to look at Lyra and Owen standing together in the square. Amy, the little girl who had been the first to visit the shop, ran forward. You're not leaving? No, Lyra said, smiling. Not leaving. Good. Amy hugged Lyra's leg. Soon other children joined, clustering around the dragon who chose them over her own species. Adults approached more slowly, but they came, offering words of support, gratitude that she stayed. Welcome. Owen felt his chest tighten with emotion he couldn't quite name. Pride, relief, love, all of it probably. Lyra looked at him over the children's heads, her yellow eyes bright. Home? She asked. Yeah, Owen said, his voice rough. Let's go home. They walked back to the shop together, surrounded by their Community, their family, not the family Lyra was born into, but the one she chose, the one that chose her back, and that Owen thought made all the difference. That night, Lyra fell asleep. In her usual corner, wings tucked. Peacefully, Owen worked late on a new commission. Through the window he could see the stars. Somewhere up there 5 dragons were flying through the night, going home to their kind, but Lyra was already home with her kind, the kind that mattered, not species, not biology, but choice and love, and the simple act of refusing to let someone freeze alone. In the dark, that was the lesson, that was what humanity could teach the galaxy. That family was something you built, not something you were born into. That strength came from protecting the weak, not abandoning them. That warmth shared was warmth multiplied. Lyra had learned it, lived it, and now she would teach it to others, starting with 5 dragons who flew away confused, but thinking, questioning their old ways, wondering if maybe, just maybe, a small human Toymaker and his dragon daughter knew something they had missed. Change started small with one choice, one act of kindness, one child saved from freezing. Everything else followed. 2 years later, the shop looked different. Owen had expanded into the building next door, knocking down the wall between them to create one large space. The front was still the toy shop, but the back had become something else entirely. A workshop, a classroom, a home for children who had nowhere else to go. Lyra stood at the window, now tall enough that her head nearly touched the ceiling. Her wingspan could barely fit inside anymore. She had to be careful when she moved, conscious of her size and strength, but she was still Lyra, still patient with the children, still gentle with the delicate work. The door opened, a growl child entered, no more than 5 years old by their species standards. He was thin, too thin, and his gray skin had the dull quality that came from malnutrition. He stood in the doorway, shivering despite the warm spring air. Owen looked up from his workbench, so did Lyra. They had the same thought at the same moment. The kind of synchronization that came from years of working together. Owen set down his tools. Lyra moved forward slowly, making herself small despite her size. "Hello," Lyra said softly. "You look cold." The child stared at her with huge eyes. "You're a dragon." "Yes, my name is Lyra." "What is yours?" "Thomas." He wrapped his arms around himself. "I heard you help people, kids like me. Is that true?" "Yes," Owen said, coming around the counter. "Are you alone?" Thomas nodded. "My parents died last month. Supply ship accident. Nobody wanted me after. Too many mouths to feed. They said someone told me about this place, said there was a dragon who saves kids." Lyra and Owen exchanged a look. This happened more often now. Word had spread across the colony, then to other colonies, then across the sector. The story of a dragon child saved by a human Toymaker. The story of a partnership that shouldn't exist but did. The story of a place where abandoned children could find warmth. "Come in," Owen said. "Have you eaten?" Thomas shook his head. Owen went to prepare food while Lyra guided the boy to a seat near the heating unit. 3 other children were already there. A human girl named Sophie, who had been with them for 6 months. Kellen boy named RX, who had arrived last week, and a small creature from a species Owen didn't even recognize, who they had named Hope because she arrived with nothing else. "This is Thomas," Lyra told them. "He will stay with us for a while." The children welcomed him easily, the way kids did when they understood what it meant to be alone. Sophie brought him a blanket. Rix offered to share his toys. Hope simply moved closer, offering silent companionship. Owen returned with hot food. Thomas ate like he hadn't seen a meal in days. He probably hadn't. When he finished, his eyes started to close, exhaustion taking over. Owen carried him to one of the small beds they had set up in the back room. Thomas was asleep before his head hit the pillow. Another one, Owen said quietly, returning to the main workshop. Another one, Lyra agreed. She looked around at the space they had built. It wasn't much, not compared to the need. But it was something. We need more room. I know, Mrs. Chen said she might donate the building across the street. She was impressed by what we're doing. Because you are a good person, Lyra said. Because you showed Colony how to see different. We showed them, Owen corrected. You did. As much as I did, more probably. Lyra's scales flushed with pleasure at the praise, but she shook her head. You taught me everything I know, everything I am, because you gave warmth when I had none. The door chime rang again. This time it was Patricia, the council chairwoman. She had aged in the past 2 years, her hair grayer, her face lined with the stress of running a growing colony, but her eyes were kind. Oh, and Lyra, do you have a moment? They moved to the small office space Owen had created. Patricia sat heavily in a chair. I'll get straight to it. The sector government has noticed what you're doing here. The orphanage, the multi-SES integration, the success rate. Success rate, Owen asked. Every child you've taken in has thrived, found purpose, learned trades, become productive members of society. That's unprecedented. Most orphanages have maybe a 30% success rate. You're at 100%. We just treat them like people, Lyra said simply. Give them warmth, give them food, give them purpose, teach them they have value. Simple, Patricia smiled. Simple, right? That's why I'm here. Sector wants to replicate your model. Create similar centers on other colonies. They want you to train others. Share your methods. Owen and Lyra looked at each other. We don't have methods, Owen said. We just do what feels right. That's the method, Patricia replied. Care, genuine care, no bureaucracy, no quotas, just people helping people, or, in your case, people and dragons helping everyone. She pulled out a data pad. They're offering funding enough to expand significantly, to hire help, to take in more children. They want to make this official. The Owen and Lyra Foundation for Cross-Species Youth Development. The name hung in the air. Owen felt overwhelmed. That's too much. We're just a toy shop that got out of hand. You're a revolution that started in a toy shop, Patricia corrected. You proved that species doesn't matter, that family is choice, that the abandoned can thrive. If given the chance, that's worth replicating. Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, if we do this, if we teach others, they must understand is not about rules, is about seeing child, not species, about giving warmth even when it costs something, about refusing to walk past someone who needs help. I'll make sure they understand, Patricia promised. So is that a yes? Owen looked at Lyra. She looked back. They had come so far from that frozen night 2 years ago, from a dying dragon child and a toy maker who couldn't walk away. Now they were being asked to spread that choice across the sector, to teach others what warmth really meant. Yes, Owen said. But we keep running the shop, keep taking in kids personally. The foundation can expand, but this place stays the same. Deal. Patricia stood to leave, then paused. You know what? The sector government called your approach in their report. They called it the human protocol, the idea that no child, regardless of species, should be left to die alone in the cold. That helping someone who needs it is not weakness but the highest form of strength. After she left, Owen and Lyra returned to the workshop. The children were playing together, their different species and backgrounds forgotten in the simple joy of being kids. Thomas had woken up and was laughing at something Rick had said. Hope was showing Sophie a drawing she had made. Normal, beautiful home. Human protocol, Lyra said, testing the words. They think is only human thing. No, Owen said, it's a people thing. You proved that. You took the warmth I gave you and multiplied it, gave it to these kids, taught them to give it to each other. That's not human, that's just right. Lyra hummed, the sound of contentment she made when she was truly happy. Owen, yeah, thank you for not walking away, for giving warmth, for making me family. Owen felt his throat tighten. Thank you for staying, for choosing us, for teaching the galaxy that family is something we build, not something we're born into. That evening, as the sun set and the lights came on in the shop, Owen stood at the door, the same spot where he had found Lyra 2 years ago, where a shivering dragon child had waited, half frozen and wholly abandoned, where he had made a choice that changed everything. The door opened. A small figure stood there, backlit by the street lamps. Another child, another species Owen didn't recognize, another pair of eyes that held fear and hope in equal measure. Are you Owen? The child asked. And is there really a dragon who helps people? Owen smiled. Behind him, Lyra appeared magnificent and kind, her scales catching the light. Yes, Owen said, come in, you're safe now, we'll keep you warm. The child stepped inside. The door closed behind them. Outside, the wind picked up cold despite the season. But inside there was light and warmth, and the sound of children laughing. Inside there was family chosen and cherished. Inside there was proof that kindness multiplied, that warmth shared grew stronger, that refusing to abandon someone in the cold could change the galaxy. One child at a time, one act of warmth at a time, one choice at a time. That was enough. That was everything. That was the real strength humanity had to offer, not weapons or technology or conquest, just the simple refusal to let someone freeze alone when they had warmth to share. Lyra had taught them that, a dragon child who learned from a human Toymaker, who then taught the lesson to others, who spread warmth across the stars. And it all started with one choice on one frozen night. Choice to care, a choice to help, a choice to give the only warmth he had to someone who had none. Everything else followed, everything else would follow. As long as people kept choosing warmth over cold, love over fear, family over isolation. That was the human protocol. And now, thanks to a dragon named Lyra and a toy maker named Owen, it belonged to everyone.